Gladiators Peter Doocy of Fox News and Phil Wegmann of realclearpolitics question John Kirby and Karine Jean-Pierre over a range of issues. All of that and more here on The Bald Brad Show. Welcome to The Bald Brad Show. It is Tuesday, November 29th, and as always, support the show by hitting that like and subscribe button, as well as leaving your opinions in the comment section below regarding anything that we cover in today's episode. Your help and support would be greatly appreciated. And with that being said, our lead story of the day is the Gladiator Peter Doocy of Fox News questioning John Kirby regarding China, oil, climate change. He gets a litany of questions out here, folks. As always, again, hit that like and subscribe button. Without further ado, let's go ahead and roll the tape.
So just to follow up, John, on the China issue, why is the White House's line that everybody has the right to peacefully protest and not the U.S. thinks it's bad to lock people up in their houses to stop COVID?
We've made it clear, Peter, that a lockdown is not a policy that we're going to support here. We've come a long way over these last 3 years. Hard to believe, 3 years in terms of treating COVID and preventing COVID. So we've said, a lockdown is not a policy that we support here. But obviously there are people in China that have concerns about that, and they're protesting that, and we believe they should be able to do that peacefully.
Okay. And on the sanctions relief for Venezuela, why is it that President Biden would rather let U.S. companies drill for oil in Venezuela than here in the U.S.?
That's not an accurate take on the president's view.
Earlier this month.
What? Talk about gaslighting, folks. This is ridiculous. He definitely would rather go drill in a dictatorship in a socialist country, Venezuela, than increase oil production here in the United States. But I guarantee you, he's going to sit there and be like, well, we have permits, and they could just use those permits. Because that's the narrative of the Biden administration, and it's been the narrative since day one. You had it from Jen Psaki to Karine Jean-Pierre to John Kirby to Joe Biden himself, even though Joe Biden has literally said multiple times, not just on the campaign trail, but also as president, that he doesn't want to increase drilling. No more drilling. Wants to put the fossil fuel industry out of business. He's been clear about it, and this guy's going to sit here and gaslight us like this? Typical.
He said no more drilling. There is no more drilling.
The president has issued 9,000 permits for drilling on U.S. federal lands.
Somebody look that up because I don't think it's 9,000. There is over 9,100 permits out there, but I don't think Joe Biden has issued 9,100 permits. I think in his first year, this is pulling it off literally the top of my head, I want to say it's like 3,100. He did surpass Trump in terms of signing permits, and some of those permits were not just federal, but they're actually mostly, I believe, the vast majority of them public lands. Somebody check that out, put in the comments below, but I'd be shocked if it was 9,000.
Peter, 9,000 of them being unused. There are plenty of opportunities for oil and gas companies to drill here in the United States. I'll let Chevron speak for this particular issue of sanctions relief, but our expectation is it won't be a lot of oil coming out of there. It'll have to be shipped to the United States.
Does the president?
You got to love that messaging. And I also love the fact that they keep pushing this, again, 9,100 permits. Go, well, they could just drill everywhere. Sometimes, and we've talked about this at length on the Bald Brad Show here, is that just because there's 9,100 permits doesn't mean all those 9,100 are going to actually be productive in producing oil. Some of them just do that to just scour the land to make sure that land is actually acquired or that permit's actually acquired, whether there's oil there or not. They do that to sit there and kind of show the competition and have the competition themselves take out more permits to invest certain areas in the sector of the United States that allow this oil drilling to take place, to offset each other. I mean, there's so many reasons as to why they pull these permits, and for him to go, well, they're just not using all of them, as if all of them could be utilized. I mean, it's so frustrating.
I didn't think there's some benefit to the climate to drill oil in Venezuela and not here.
No, it has nothing to do with a benefit to the climate, Peter. Again, there are 9,000 unused permits here in the United States on federal land that oil and gas companies can and should take advantage of. 9,000. And we're talking about one there in Venezuela. Now, look, it remains to be seen how much will get drilled down there. It'll be up to Chevron to decide that, Peter. But as a function of the sanction itself, that oil, whatever product is drilled, has to come to the United States.
So screw climate change. All of a sudden, climate's not an issue. Oh, that's not a problem. That's not a part of it. All these things, because there's a clear narrative coming out of the administration that we need to get rid of all fossil fuels. We need to make sure electric vehicles are the only new vehicle sold in the state of California. They want to sit there and make everything wind and solar. For the love of God, for the life of me, I still don't understand that. I'm all for breathing clean air, but for you to try and sit there and expedite this whole thing and get rid of fossil fuels, not increasing domestic oil production, you'd rather go to these other countries to get it when we can be self-sufficient, it's just idiotic to me. I mean, the fact that they want to sit there and run all these solar and wind, which we know can't, I mean, literally mathematically, it's not possible. And I love that they're all for the climate. They don't want to sit there and hurt the land and the animals and the trees and the vegetation and all this other stuff, even though the amount of land that you need to take up to utilize solar and wind is insane. You're talking a matter of the size of states, but they don't want to talk about that, folks. They don't want to sit there and actually talk about and have the conversation about nuclear power that's clean, that actually is efficient, that can power a lot more than wind and solar. They don't want to have those conversations. There's an agenda here, folks. There's an agenda all the way down to the Great Reset. The Great Reset is this concept by Schwab and Davos and the rest of the elites to sit there and make sure that on a macro and micro level that they can sit there and track everything that you do, your carbon footprint. And based on your carbon footprint, you're going to have a score, almost like a video game, to where people will stop lending you money. People will lend you money. You're not allowed to open up a business. You can open up a business. They're going to dictate whatever you can and cannot do based on your carbon footprint, from the amount of stuff that you're purchasing to the amount of carbon that you're emitting, folks. This stuff is wild. They have an agenda, and we got to wake up to it. It's not a conspiracy theorist anymore. Literally, banks are using an environmental score, an ESG score right now, per you and a bunch of others. And what are they going to do with it later, folks? They're going to do something with it. And the theory is that they're going to sit there and basically enable you to lend, or should I say offer you money to take out stuff for a loan, whether it's a student loan, finance a vehicle, a mortgage, whatever it is, or they're going to not allow you to do that based on your score. A lot of possibilities here, but as you can see from the Biden administration, they're going to go straight towards this whole thing of like there's 9,100 permits. They can utilize all these. They can increase domestic oil production, yada, yada, yada. Even though they're not calling the elephant out in the room that the Biden administration wants to put them obsolete. The Democrat Party, half of America, wants to put them obsolete, out of business. Why would they make that investment in the first place if you know that an administration that half of the country, half of Congress wants to make them obsolete? You tell me why they would want to go make that type of investment. You go tell me why they would want to take out that insurance. You go tell me all these things, but they don't. They have a talking point here, folks. The talking point is they can use them, and they should use them, even though Joe Biden has been clear on what he wants to do. Well, moving into our next story of the day, folks, if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, what are you doing? Support the Bald Brad Show. We got our man, the other gladiator of Real Clear Politics, Phil Wegmann, questioning John Kirby on a few issues as well. And then he has a follow-up question for Karine Jean-Pierre regarding Joe Biden's statements over the weekend regarding banning all semi-automatic weapons. This is crazy, folks. He does a fabulous job here. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Thank you. Two quick questions, one on China and then on Ukraine. I'm wondering, what is the president's reaction when he hears protesters in China chant freedom or Xi Jinping step down?
The president's not going to speak for protesters around the world. They're speaking for themselves.
And so there's no...
I don't think the question was him speaking on behalf of the protesters. It's more of what does he think, what does he have to say about it? But this is how they spin it to make sure that they're careful here, because let's be honest, Joe Biden's in the pockets of the Chinese people, okay? He's in the pockets of the Chinese government. And I can't wait till all this stuff about Hunter Biden's laptops released, and you look at Hunter Biden's investments and all these oil companies, and just it's a miracle how like 1 million plus barrels of oil goes to China in the same sector, in the same province of where Hunter Biden has these investments. You have Joe Biden that has 150 plus bank, I don't even know what you would call them, areas of banks in terms of basically suspicious activity, fraudulent activity that would only be issued if the bank literally thought that you were conducting illegal activity. It basically sparks a red flag, and Joe Biden has 150 plus. To put it in perspective, basically like 99.5% of Americans don't ever even see this, have never even heard of it, and Joe Biden has 150 plus of them. A little bit of an investigation that needs to be done there, but great job by Phil Wegmann asking, and John Kirby here, of course, as always, dodging.
reaction?
These protesters are speaking for themselves. What we are doing is making it clear that we support the right of peaceful protest.
And then my follow-up, is the backlog of arms shipments to Taiwan a result of our stepped-up efforts to send arms to Ukraine?
What I can tell you is that we are constantly balancing, as we must, our own inventories, the inventories of our allies and partners, and people that we do conduct arms sales with, as well as, of course, the inventory that the Ukrainian armed forces need to fight the Russian aggression. And it's a balancing act, and with every single decision by the president to draw down DoD stocks, he gets an assessment from the Pentagon about whether that's going to affect our readiness. And we're in constant touch with, again, allies and partners about their readiness needs, because many of them are reliant on U.S. systems. And of course, that includes Taiwan. The president just signed out, a month or so ago, another $1 billion of Taiwan arms sales. And of course, we're going to continue to look at what the next iteration of that needs to look like and when that would occur. But we take very seriously our responsibility to help provide Taiwan the self-defense capabilities that it needs. That's in accordance with law and policy, and that's not going to change.
But in terms of those shipments actually going out the door to Taiwan currently, is there a backlog when it comes to those arms being shipped?
I'm not going to get into at a public podium talking about inventory stocks of any system anywhere. That just is not a good idea for us to do. Certainly not from the podium.
Am I missing something? Because I didn't think that was the question. He was just questioning backlogs. It doesn't necessarily mean backlogs of our inventory is low or our inventory is high. It's more of a backlog in terms of shipments. Is it just getting there? So I don't really know where John Kirby's going with this, and maybe I'm just reading into it incorrectly. Let me know down in the comments below. But as far as I'm aware, and again, I could be wrong here, that wasn't really the question. So I don't know why he's bringing up the whole aspect and almost making Phil Wegmann look stupid. Of like, well, I'm not going to talk about our inventory and how much we have and don't have. I mean, why would I do that on public space? Which I get and I totally understand. I just don't think that was the question. And I don't really understand why there's a necessary need to dodge it either. So it's a weird thing.
We watch it very closely. We make sure that our readiness can be preserved as well as the readiness of our allies and partners. But look, has all the provisions to Ukraine, has that caused an effort inside the administration to make sure that we are judiciously monitoring stocks and inventories and working with the defense industry to plus them up and to make sure that those supply chains are still flowing? Absolutely. Of course we are. But it's a balance we strike every day.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah.
Way in the back.
So, I mean, John Kirby doing his job, answering the questions as he should. I mean, sometimes he's going to dodge and give political statements like the 9100 permits and all these other things. So that's just a narrative that the Biden administration's really not going to let go. And what's odd to me is the president is so clear on what he wants to do. But then when you get to his mouthpieces like John Kirby or Karine Jean-Pierre, there's like a spinning for some reason. I don't understand why they do it, on why they need to spin certain narratives when the president is clear as day since he's been campaigning on what he wants to do. So on one end, Joe Biden's saying another thing, and then on the other end, you got Karine Jean-Pierre, John Kirby, and his administration just saying something completely different. It's weird to me. Well, here's a follow-up from Philip Wegmann of Real Clear Politics, asking about the whole idea of Joe Biden over the weekend talking about banning all assault weapons and also semi-automatic weapons. He has been conflating the two for quite some time, and I don't think Karine Jean-Pierre gives a sufficient answer here, and I'll follow up once we watch the clip. But I also want to speak on the short that I did of basically what Philip Wegmann's talking about of Joe Biden over the weekend or over break on video, literally saying that he wants to ban all assault weapons. And like I said, he has conflated semi-automatic weapons, which is virtually almost all weapons here now, with assault weapons. And with that aspect, I made a short on it. And you get a lot of people in the comments, these progressive left, these people from not even America, saying, oh, well, why would civilians need firearms? Why would civilians need assault weapons? Why would civilians need military grade weapons? Which a knife is military grade, let's be honest. So you get these knuckleheads in here that literally don't understand history on governments going tyrannical on their own people and wiping them out. You don't even have to go look that far. Hell, you can look today. You can look at the cliche of World War II with the Nazis and the Jews and others and the gypsies. I mean, there's so many avenues, Mao. I mean, you can go down a chain of basically communist, socialist countries, and the list just goes down of governments have gone usurpacious on their own people, or heck, even other people, where those people, if they were able to defend themselves, having a Second Amendment like we would, maybe they would have been far better off. I'm not saying they would have won or anything, but they would have been far better off of defending themselves. And don't even get me in the whole aspect of you have a right, a God-given right to protect yourself and your family as well as your property. But for some reason, they don't get it. So go over that video, folks. Please go over that short, check it out, and leave a comment down below berating these progressive leftists on not having a clue what the Second Amendment's about. Well, here's the follow-up from Phil Wegmann.
Just wanted to ask a quick follow-up. The president has said repeatedly that, of course, he wants to ban assault weapons, but on Thanksgiving, when he was in Nantucket, he said, quote, "The idea we still allow semi-automatic weapons to be purchased is sick." Obviously, that's a huge category of guns, from rifles to pistols to shotguns, that are not assault weapons. So I guess my question here is, did the president misspeak, or does he in fact want to ban all semi-automatic guns that are?
No, he was talking about assault weapons. That's what he was talking about on that morning or that afternoon when he was asked that question.
Thank you.
Okay.
I really wish, though, Phil had a follow-up here, because Philip's question really at the beginning kind of highlighted the fact of he's spoken other time about semi-automatic weapons, and now he's kind of hyper-focusing on these assault weapons, and he's been conflating the two for many, many years. And so I wish there kind of was a follow-up here. Granted, he already had a question in with John Kirby, so I understand that he's kind of maybe limiting the amount of questions being utilized, and he doesn't want to overburden and then not get a question later on another day. Maybe that's what's going on. But the Democrats continually use this term assault weapons. Somebody explain to me what that means. I honest to God don't know. I've been trying to figure it out for years, because at one end they'll say it's machine guns, which are banned. On the other end, they'll say it's AR-15, right? Which AR-15, I fully understand, folks, it's not a assault rifle, but that's what the progressive left think it is, and that's what they want to ban. You have a big portion of the Democrat Party that wants to ban the AR-15 for some reason. Hell, you hear it on The View all the time, as if that's going to stop mass shootings, if that's going to stop murders and all these other things. But then they also say semi-automatic weapons, like a pistol, ghost guns. I mean, there's a range of things that they want to ban. So I don't know what they mean when they say assault weapons. When they say that, I think of, okay, you want to ban firearms. You want to sit there and ban semi-automatic weapons, which Joe Biden has utilized in the past. And I wish it was cleared up here of, okay, well, what did he mean all those other times then when he talked about semi-automatic weapons? Is that truly what he wants to ban? Which one is it? And give her an ultimatum. Please choose right now on the podium, semi-automatic weapons or assault weapons. Which one does he want to ban? And then have that conversation evolve as time goes on. But like I said, folks, they're doing a number. The president that's supposed to uphold the Constitution, which inside there is the Second Amendment, he's supposed to uphold, not chisel away. He's in fact chiseling away. There is a party, there's a massive segment of our Congress that wants to sit there and enable you from having the right to bear arms. And people are like, oh, well, he's not going to ban all guns. Nobody's talking about banning all guns at the moment. What we're saying is you are chiseling away at our right. And at some point, not in 10 years, not in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, maybe in 200 years, at some point, you're going to chisel it away so much to where that right either doesn't work as a right because we're not able to utilize it in the way that it was supposed to be utilized, or we literally don't have that right anymore, or that right's going to be ultimately not there whatsoever because the government's taken it from us. And by the government, I mean the Democrat Party and the progressive left. It will happen over time. It's been happening for quite some time. In the same way, our free speech has been limited, and now they're evolving it into hate speech. And there's a big form of the Democrat Party and the progressive left that want to move that as well, folks. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. I mean, really, do you think that our rights are being chiseled away as time goes on? Do you think at some point in our history, if this continues, that we're not going to have a Second Amendment and First Amendment? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, support us by hitting that like and subscribe button. And folks, I'll see you tomorrow here on the Ball Brad Show.